Hello, and welcome to this travel talk video. I'm Philip Koffinger, and today we're going to be talking about my trip that I took a few years ago to London, England. Now, you're probably pretty familiar with London. I have seen many of the sights in pictures and in TV or whatnot. For example, this bridge. You might recognize this bridge. This is a Tower Bridge. It's one of the most famous bridges, I'd argue, in the world. Why? I'm not really sure, but it's cool looking, and that's what's important to me, right? So yeah, this is Tower Bridge on the River Thames. Um, this picture is where things start to get a little more interesting. This is the Queen's Palace. She lives outside of the city proper, as you can see in the background, when she's not doing her job, being the Queen. But you probably are familiar with the Queen. Uh, Seen pictures and whatnot. She's very, very old. A lot of memes are made about how um, old she really is. Now, at that same spot where I took that last picture, I took this picture. Those are my feet. Um, and that orangish, brownish line in the middle is a very interesting line. That is, in fact, the prime meridian of the world, the longitudinal line of zero. That line essentially divides the world into two hemispheres, right? The east and the west. That right there is the center of the world. Is that not fantastic? Is it not crazy? Now, this is Buckingham Palace. You're probably familiar with this. This is where the British Royal Guard um, does their job. As you can see, all these people down here at the bottom of the picture, they're all at the gate. On the other side of the gate, that's where the British Guard that they work and that they stand and whatnot, and the red coats and the ginormous hats that go straight up in the air. They look pretty funny. Well, that's where a lot of those pictures are taken, right at this spot. And of course, Buckingham Palace. That's a pretty important palace in London as well. Now, this picture just kind of for comedic effect. Look how tiny this house building is in between these two other houses. Like, that's just so narrow. I just thought it was really funny and wanted to include it in this video. Now, this was really cool to me. I don't know about you, if you'll find it as interesting, but this is an exact replica of the theater houses from William Shakespeare's time. So, back then, they had theaters like this. As you can see kind of up here, they didn't really have a roof, and people would come and they'd stand down here like these people. This bar came in the way, but so there'd be some people in the crowd, and then if you were a little bit richer, you could actually get a bench, and then they'd come and they'd watch a play such as, Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet, maybe you're familiar with those, on stage like this. Just like this. And I think that's super crazy, super cool that I got to see. And now you too get to see what it looked like back then. Now, while I was in England, I went to a few museums. My favorite being the Museum of Natural History. And the Museum of Natural History is this fairly nondescript um, stone, just in this glass box. However, this stone is the Rosetta Stone. Now, I don't have a lot of time to go into it now, but I would totally recommend you go and look up what the Rosetta Stone actually is. It was instrumental um, when it came to language translations between three different languages of old times, allowing us to check to make sure our current understanding of each languages were correct, and allowed us to understand the third and final language, and how to read the ancient language today. That to me is just crazy that I got to see the Rosetta Stone. It's a very, very famous piece of history. Also, for all you sports people out there, if you remember, way back in 2012, London had the Summer Olympics. And that's right. This in front of you, this picture, is the uh, where the track and field events were held for the Summer Olympics. That's just crazy, right? Going to an Olympic stadium. It's fantastic. And finally, I think you might like this one. Now, it's kind of hard to see because there's a lot of glare, but if you look really closely, this says 221B, and what you can't see here is this is on Baker Street in London. And if you know anything about 221B Baker Street, you know, and maybe you can kind of see down here, it's kind of spoiled, but this is the location where Sherlock Holmes is from. This is his house in the books, and in all movie and television adaptations. Sherlock Holmes lives in 221B on Baker Street in London, England. Now, I don't have any pictures for you today, but inside was an exact replica. Well, maybe not exact replica, but a replica based off of houses from that age and the items described in the Sherlock books to replicate what his house would look like. Now that's all the photos that I have for you today. So I really hope that you're more interested in London now. It's a fantastic city. This trip that I've described for you today was the best vacation that I've ever gone on, which is saying a lot. So, if you get the chance to go to England, to London, say yes. It'll be worth your while. All right? Thank you.